something's wrong with the system in our country. Is this why we're not getting it right? Because we've got campaign teams, politicians being told to fire at each other. Why are we not trying to fix where the UK is to make us better?
Tell me, who is Abi Hookway?
A mum of two, and I've become a property investor, and now I help other people to invest in property and make money.
There's a proper pivot in there somewhere, isn't there?
I went through a divorce. Found myself on my own with two small kids under 5, 24 grand in stupid credit card debt that I was really embarrassed about. And that's when I knew that I needed to do something different.
Study hard at school, pass your exams, and you can get a good job. I could never envisage what the job would be.
So schools were created to create good workers. At the time we needed workers, we needed, good citizens, and that's what schools were there for. So then when you look at the curriculum today, the curriculum hasn't changed. I'd like to make a difference because I'm upset about the way the country's going, and I'm upset that a lot of successful people are forced out. Hey, I don't want to leave the UK. I want to raise my children here.
What's that one piece of advice that you would give a younger version of you?
The one piece of advice would be
Sorry to interrupt. I've never asked this before, but if you can subscribe and follow, that will allow me to keep bringing extraordinary guests onto the show. Now let's get back to it.
Thank you so much for having me on.
You know how much I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Great.
Tell me, who is Abi Hookway?
So I am a mum of two. I was born in Yorkshire, and I've become a property investor, and now I help other people to invest in property and make money.
There's a proper pivot in there somewhere, isn't there? So talk me through that sort of journey from what you were doing to what you're doing now.
So I'm a normal person. People look at me and they think I'm something that I'm not. I was born on a council estate, brought up with a single mum. We were the benefits family. We had nothing growing up. I then grew up and thought, I don't want any of that. I'm going to live my life differently. And at the age of 31, I got into a lot of financial difficulty. I went through a divorce. Found myself on my own with two small kids under 5, 24 grand in stupid credit card debt that I was really embarrassed about. And what on earth happened to me? I thought I followed the path, and I didn't want to get into a mess like how I was grown up with not a lot, and, laying awake at night, worrying about things. And that's when I knew that I needed to do something different, because my 9-to-5 job would never, ever take me and give me the freedom or security for me and my kids.
So that was the entrepreneurial journey. That was the whole kind of spark where you got a pain point. You got to run away from something, but also you got to run towards taking control of your own destiny. So what did you do?
Well, I got on the internet, as you do, late at night, thinking there must be something out there. And I'd always loved property. I'd, watched all the channels, location, Homes Under the Hammer. And I was like, how can someone like me do it? And I found this guy called Paul Smith, and he was talking about how you can use other people's money to buy property. And I didn't even know that. It blew my mind. So I set out, got educated, and went and did my first deal, literally in debt. My credit rating was terrible, single mum. I lived in a little terrace, little house with the kids. And I just decided, well, I'm going to try. So this is a deal, just because so anyone watching, listening from a property point of view, is this a deal that you brokered and facilitated? Or is this a deal where you actually bought the property, took it through refurbishment, and then exited it as a flip? Bought it, yeah.
Right, so straight in.
Yes.
The first deal wasn't a kind of just flipping it on, or you know what I mean, and making a margin.
Oh.
Are you with me? You
yes.
went straight in on a proper project.
Yeah, the first deal was a rent-to-rent actually. So I went to the Peak District and saw these two little properties to rent. I rented them with a landlord's consent, put them on booking.com, Airbnb, and started to make money. And I was like, oh, this might actually work. I mean, it's scary.
So early validation.
Yeah, at the time, I was just paying my own rent, never mind, try and take on 2 more. But that just literally, you have the light bulb moment where your life changes. So I can remember I'd set up these 2 little properties. They'd gone live in the April, and it was end of May, and I'd worked for BT. I worked for the call centre at the time, just Yeah, and I got my pay slip from the call centre, and it said that I'd earned £2,400, but I had earned that money. I'd worked every day. I was always panicking that my boss was going to sack me. I was on my own with my kids. And then I got my managing agent from these two little properties. So I lived an hour away from them. So I had to have an agent manage them, manage, the cleaners, deal with the guests. So I didn't do any of that, but they looked after it for me. So I had my statement. And when I deducted my rent to the landlord, your utilities, insurance, everything you need to run like a holiday let, these two little properties, I'd made £3,200. And I was looking at this money and looking at my pay slip, and I was like, we're all taught the wrong thing at school. I was taught to work hard, put every hour in. I've not worked for these two little properties, but because of what I know, I've been able to set them up and made that amount of money. And after that, that was a game changer. And then that gave me the confidence to go and physically buy property and leverage other people's money.
Thank you for explaining that. I think that's important because there's property deals and there's property deals, and actually, that. But what that allowed you to do is, you could replicate, you could scale.
Yeah,
that must have been exciting.
Very
living on
exciting.
that 2,400, which you grafted for and had no life outside of, to realizing that there's a financial stability that can come alongside actually ramping this right up.
It's scary though, because I rang my mum. I was like, oh my God, they've made this much money. And my mum was not on board. She was like, it's all a scam, this property thing. Only rich people do property. We think you've gone to Lulu. My mum's like, well, it's because it's in the summer. You wait till the winter. They won't cover their costs in the winter. But I knew I'd done my right research and due diligence, and they did. I think my first year they made me about 22 grand after I paid everything and the agent, because I didn't manage them. They were all done for me. So yeah, it was really life-changing.
It's interesting how the advice from people that genuinely care and love you, but they haven't done it. And it's scary because I was brought up, and this is a really key kind of common denominator to our conversation. I was brought up around a family that had been employed, not entrepreneurial. So there was the real emphasis on pass your exams, study hard at school, pass your exams, and you can get a good job. And I could never envisage what the job would be. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. Yeah. And it was only going into that entrepreneurial journey, and then the whole realization, if I actually focus on myself, I can then determine my own destiny, if you like, and how much I earn. But that came to me a lot later than I'd have liked, because you're not taught that in schools.
No.
Why are we not taught financial education and the routes to property investing and other ways of ultimately making money a different way to the traditional way?
I've looked into this a lot, and I think it goes back to the roots of why schools were created. So schools were created to create good workers. At the time, we needed workers, we needed, good citizens, and that's what schools were there for, to create good workers. Now, if you go back in time and look at like the rich mine owners, they didn't send their kids to school, they homeschooled their children, and their children were brought into the business at ages 14 and 15, and their children learned what they needed to learn, where everyone else, we went to school to become workers, not to become financially free. So then when you look at the curriculum today, the curriculum hasn't changed. It's basically the same what we've been teaching. And this is why so many people get into financial difficulty now in today's world, because we're operating on advice from our parents who learned it from their parents, and it's the same advice that doesn't work, and then nobody's teaching. And that's how I thought my mum got into financial difficulty. She was, on benefits. I then grew up and said, I don't want to be like that. But all I'd known was my mum and how she managed money. And I got myself in that state.
It's interesting. No, you're right. The whole feeding what was industry, and which basically means it's archaic and out of date.
Yeah.
But it's not being brought up to date. And so there's repeating patterns. And now with AI, replacing so many jobs, so university is not a guarantee to go and get a good job, which is where that all feeds into. That now feels to me almost like a bit of a lie. Like there are really horrible, damning stats in the mental health side of things with students that are like, well, I followed the system. I did what I was told to do, and I can't get a job.
Yeah. It's scary, isn't it? I think I read an article about the big 4 accountancy firms in London cut graduate recruitment by 29% last year. So imagine you've done your degree, you're about to be an accountant or financial expert, you go and get a job and you can't even get a job. And now you're left with all this student debt, aren't you? You now then can't get a job or do because AI is replacing, and that's what the companies are doing. Yeah. And it's funny because I've sent my kids to private school now because I want them, not the education, but I want them to have the network, because I believe who you're around with really, really matters. But then you look at the private education system, and even even they're not getting it as much as I would like them to get it. They're a little bit ahead of normal schools, but it's like, can everybody wake up? Because in 10 years' time, what you're teaching our children to do, the jobs are not going to be here.
My two daughters are 15 and 16. So as we sit here now, next week GCSE results come through to my oldest, and my youngest, that's some of hers as well.
Yeah.
There's still a pressure from friendship groups and parents where they're like, what, your kids aren't going to do A-levels, or they're not going to do university, teachers. But that route just doesn't, because there's not one thing, particularly academically, that they want to do. It doesn't feel like it. So it's all about now life experience. It's all about actually, the learnings from the lived experience of proper role models, onto which I'm pointing at you because that's how I see you.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted to cover that because that storytelling piece, which your story is so compelling, it's so inspiring. How many people have you inspired to now kind of either not necessarily do what you're doing, but to break away from what is that traditional, I work for my payslip, to actually now become more entrepreneurial? I
measure it maybe on my social media, which is telling me I reach about 25 million people a week. So I'm hoping that's a lot of people. So whether they want to come and learn with me, or whether I've inspired them on part of their wealth journey.
Abi, that's phenomenal.
It is really cool.
You've worked so hard to build that up as well, right?
I have worked really hard. And what's lovely is, I have young people, like I had a 17-year-old a few months ago reach out. He doesn't want to go to uni. He understands. His parents have said, we'll support you either way, but you're not getting any money. So go out onto the world and make it. And he's come to learn from me to do property flipping. He said, I'd love to flip property and bring back, properties. He's got a few properties around him that have been empty for a long time, and he doesn't understand with the housing crisis, why are these properties empty? And I'm like, that's exactly what we're here to do. People think, property investors and people like me are bad. We take people's homes, but they're missing that we're taking the homes that nobody wants to touch and putting them back into the community, either rentals or we sell them to families. But at 17, I love the fact that he's seen my Instagram, decided he doesn't want to go to uni, and he's, that's what makes me proud.
Inspiring. So I've been in property development for a long time on that sort of the big scale of building 100, 150 apartments, taking the risk on the market, which has actually gone very well for me, and it's also gone particularly badly for me. I don't mind showing that to you. But that my pivot to be sitting with you was I actually, I probably needed you in my life about 4 years ago, or pre that, when I was doing those deals that then ended up being completely affected by external factors, Grenfell Tower fallout, the interest rate rises, COVID, everyone moved out of the town centre.
Yes.
And I'm sharing that with you because you can get property right and you get it wrong. Feels like the majority of the time you're getting it right. And I want to know if you have got it wrong and what lessons you've learned.
I have got it wrong. And I tell you, so my first year in property, I did my rent to rents and I did a property flip. I made 72 grand from that one property, but overall I made 148 grand. So I've done it. I'm free. I'm not in my call centre. Me and my kids bought a house. We've got a bit of a better life. So here's where my ego comes in. We're like, we're great. We know what we're doing.
I'm an expert now.
I'm an expert now. Look at me. I've done it for a year. I can make money. And then I go and buy another project, which was my own fault. I didn't properly see the numbers, bought it at auction. I can remember going around my builder and he went, what have you done here then? And I was like, I don't know what I've done.
This is really early in your journey as well.
It was a old railway station, and my plan was to bring it back up and to make it into a lovely house and keep it and rent it out. But when we crunched the numbers, any way I tried to do it, to flip it, refurb it, because mains lines need to be brought in, you have to shut the railway. I had no idea of any of this, and my fault. I didn't ask my coach. I didn't get help because obviously I know what I'm doing at this point. And I'd lent from an investor 300,000, which was still quite a scary thing, lending money at that point in my journey, and it felt nervy that I owed my dentist 300,000 actually. So he'd come for my teeth, wouldn't he? So I completely realised what I'd done, had the investor there who was expecting me to refurb this and, give him his money back. But luckily, I put it back out for auction. I thought, I just can't do it. I just need to flip it on and take whatever loss. And I managed to sell it. And I think all in, I maybe walked away minus 2 grand. But that was a massive lesson to me that I have to do my due diligence before. And I can't let my ego run away just thinking I know what I'm doing. Everything needs to be checked. But but I'm so glad I got that one so wrong. I'm saying I only lost £2,000, but it's the mind, isn't it? The focus, because it took about 5 months to sell it, and I was panicking and I was stressed, and I kept thinking, the dentist's going to come for me and come for my little house I've got with my kids, and oh my gosh, what have I done?
But it could have prevented the rest of the journey as well. Like you'd had this phenomenal start, and then that could have undone you.
It could have done.
Smashed your confidence.
Yeah.
And then the Abi that's sitting here now, doing these numbers and with the size of the portfolio. What is the size of your portfolio now?
At just over 10 million.
That's phenomenal. In what timeline?
Yeah. 10 years.
Yeah. But then,
I have had kids, and I keep saying to people, I could have probably done it in about 2 or 3 years if I'd have really cracked on. But obviously my kids were less than 5 at the time, and I wanted more time to spend with them. So
you don't get that time back, right, either?
No, you don't. So I didn't build as fast. But yeah, that was such a good lesson, that wake-up call for me. And then that next year, I think I went and did £2 million worth of property and bigger deals. But because I'd failed on that one, I got the bigger ones right. And I always say to people, I don't feel like I've failed. I feel like it's just lessons. It's just lessons on my past.
Yeah. And then dare I say, if you hadn't had that experience at some point further down the line, you'd have had another one, and that could have been worse. Yeah. I think it's really important to acknowledge that whole kind of, you learn from the failures, and they're a bump in the road, or they're an obstacle, if you like. Flipping that to being successful.
Yeah.
There's an early version of you that would have answered this very differently, but sitting here now, how do you define success?
I think success is having inner peace. I don't think anybody's ever happy all the time. I don't think we're sad all the time. I think having peace of mind and being able to enjoy every day and where you are and be grateful for what you've got, for me, that's success. I couldn't have done it 10 years ago because my mind was so in a panic about money and stressing and thinking I was going to lose my little rental home, or the boss is going to sack me, or anything. But when you get to a level, or for me, I've got, the money in the bank, my children are healthy, I've got my health, just having peace of mind back, I think is success.
I love
whatever you decide to do in life.
Yeah. There's another piece to this that I think you'll identify with, is I feel like there was a real need for you to survive and get out of a very difficult situation, and a whole realization moment that you don't want to live like this anymore, and you want to create your own financial security and make your own decision making around how you live your life. But very quickly, I feel like you then very much lent into wanting to give back. And I want to cover that, because so many people that accumulate wealth are very closed off and very selfish, and the ego, whereas with you, there's a giving element, and there's an element of wanting to share, wanting to help, which goes back to just how many millions of people you're engaging with each week. When did that start? Because you had the survival element, then you would have flipped that into, I want to help people.
It was a conversation with Paul, my mentor, and we were talking about 3 years in how far I'd come, and he asked me to, talk to a group of people, and just tell them what I'd done and how far I'd come. And Paul reminded me, at the time when I decided to wake up and I needed to do something, I'd actually been to the doctors and been diagnosed with depression. Which was really hard for me because I was stupid and young, and I felt that mental health was just this stupid thing that everyone was talking about, and depression was a convenient label, and I'd never experienced it myself. And to experience the darkness, and for me it was, I just wanted to sleep all the time, and it was quite a dark place. And then to come out of it, to build the money, and then just feel at peace and not have that. Me and Paul were talking, and we realised that, I don't know if you know this, but 70% of mental health challenges right now is caused by lack of money. And when I figured that out, when Paul was talking to me, and Paul said, you've come so far. I think at the time I had about a £4 million portfolio. He said, you've got this portfolio, you've done all these flips, look how your life's changed and how you've taken it. He said, because I was just, with the kids, back and forth school, doing bits and bobs, but I wasn't really doing much. And I suppose I've got to a comfortable level, but I needed something else. And he was like, why don't you go and teach? Come and teach people. And I was absolutely petrified, because I'm just Abi from Donk. I'm a single mum. I just managed to get lucky somehow and do it, for me to teach other people and show them. And Paul was saying that you're inspiring when you speak. God's given you a voice for a reason, Abi. You go and you shine and you help people. And I can remember the first group of people I worked with, only 3, I worked with for a year, and just to get it and to see the transformation. I can remember people, the first 3 people I worked with, one of them, he had a lot of debt, and his wife had left him because of money issues, and he came in, and you just felt, when someone's beaten down, and you see their body language and their cry, and you could just see the weight on him, this weight. And to be able to help him come out of it, pay off his debt, build a life that he wanted, get his confidence back, even for him to start dating again was, for me to see that. And then I think after that year, I was just committed that this was going to be my life, and this is why God had given me the challenges and taken me through everything I've seen, even for my mum being on benefits. It was important I saw that, because the benefits did help us, and my journey today is to help as many people as possible. And whether they come and they want to learn with me and my books, or whether they want to go and, where they see my social and go, actually, that's a good, I might do something slightly different, whatever part I can play in their journey, that's what matters to me.
I love that. You can feel that as well. You can't fake that kind of passion and
No.
purpose you've got for it. And I guess there's an element of the journey you've been on. At times, some of it's not been enjoyable at all, and it's been real graft. And that resilience piece that you've built, along with the success from taking your action and so on, that's got you to where you are now, is all part of the journey. And you're the better version and probably the best version of yourself because of it, if that makes sense. Which maybe you're at peace with. And thank you for sharing the depression part. I was actually wanting to talk to you about the mental health piece of like where you've been to where you are now and how you manage that, because you're a mum, you've got all these different business interests that you are spinning, which involves traveling, coming here today. So how do you make time for yourself, and how do you manage that burnout, if you like?
Not very well, to be honest. And I've just had a detached retina that started in May, and I think that was because I was at burnout, because I was trying to do everything and be everything instead of focus and doing a really good job. Because my problem is I don't say no, so I like to say yes a lot, and I think I'm Superwoman, but obviously I'm not. So I've had a lot of health challenges, a lot of operations that have had to make me sit still and really think about, and it's made me make decisions for how can I help the most amount of people, because there's only one of me. So how do I get my message and send it wider without me being burnt out? So I'm still on the path of figuring it out. I haven't rocked it yet.
Well, it's that whole you're now so stimulated by what you do. You've got compared to the version of you that was miserable in her job, which would have brought on depression and other mental challenges, and didn't want to get up. To now someone that's probably thriving and enjoying so much we do, but the body can't keep up.
No.
And it's managing that. Like the retina is a physical, detached retina is a physical kind of sort of result of that, if you like. And I guess that's a bit of a moment where you've got to be like, okay, I need to wake up.
Do you know what it is? It's because I'm so fussy about what goes out and me being the best and me preparing the best that I possibly can. I feel like I want to keep control of everything. So I've had senior managers, CEOs that have come in, and I just realised I need to give more away so I can focus on being the best. So I need to build my senior leadership team better. I need to have seniors, in each of my businesses that will report into me, but they're doing the day-to-day, and I just need to accept that they're going to do it their way. They ain't going to do it my way, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay. We'll get to the same result at the end of the day, and we learn. So since I've made that decision and put management in my property business and things have felt a lot better for me to move on. And it was probably my time to grow, because you get to a level in a business where you're a busy business owner and you're controlling, you're trying, but you naturally need to jump up to that level where you can outsource so you can focus on the most crucial parts, haven't you? But it's hard, isn't it? I still want to interfere now. I'm like, what have I done?
Well, it's this whole, you've grafted to get to where you've got to, and you've learned it. So you've got that, I don't want to say perfectionism, but that's where it sits, isn't it? It's like, well, they're not going to do it as well as me.
No.
But actually, you can't do everything on that. AI. So there's companies specializing in AI, like IFS, ChatGPT, OpenAI, Google Gemini. I just wonder where AI sits with how you personally use it, but also there's an element of search criteria and algorithm for how you find your properties and deals and how you're using AI.
So I didn't want to like AI and ChatGPT, and I'm devastated I love it as much as I do, because for me I was like, no, it can't be, no. I don't know if I was resistant to change, or it's just new and weird, or I'm conscious of the impact it's going to have on the world, but I absolutely love ChatGPT. I am on it every day, talking to it so it learns, and it learns me so well now. I'll even ask it a question about something that the solicitor sent that was 3 months ago, and it knows, and it's so clever. So ChatGPT, it's not the best in property yet, so you've still got to check what it's saying. So I'll put in a link off Rightmove, and it'll give me a rough a rough guess of what it thinks, I still have to go and check it because I'm like, it's got that totally wrong. There's no way I can refurb that in 10 grand. You know, I need to go. But yeah, it's really useful for finding comparables, just a check of the refurb budget, what I think. And because I've uploaded my schedule of works and what I've spent on previous projects, it kind of now knows for Yorkshire where I invest what it's going to spend on. But yeah, hugely useful.
Yeah. There's a role model piece to you that I love, and I've mentioned my 2 daughters, and then there's the whole being a female entrepreneur, and how there's damning stats that I know are now improving, but 2% of VC funding went to women for years on years. And I just wonder where you sit, where this journey you've been on the last 10 years, where you are the woman buying the property and you are the one running the site, which means dealing with probably quite chauvinistic, tradespeople and so on, and how that's been for you.
Back in the beginning, I think it was more my fear of it. And I think I used to give off some sort of energy where people would treat me a little bit, and, builders would ask if I was a PA. I'm like, no, I'm the one that owns a company and I've bought this, but, And I think it's improved a lot over the years as everything's improved. I decided about a month and a half ago to have a look at going into politics and figure out that world. And I was brought back to what they think. So you would think the politicians have come so far in their journey. You like to think. But yeah, I spoke to 3 campaign companies. So to be an MP, you have to get a campaign, understand what you're going, have a campaign manager. There's a lot to it. It's not a 2-minute job. And the campaign teams I spoke to all didn't seem, they were expecting me to be a man or to have a man's view. And that was really taken aback. Now, it might just be out of all the campaign companies that are probably loads out there, I just picked the 3, I had it. But it really brought me back to, wow, some people still feel like that. I logged on to a Zoom call with the guy and he's like, oh, are we waiting for the person that's going to be the MP? I was like, hi, it's me, might be me. It's crazy, isn't it?
That's
and the
offensive.
reason I wanted to do that is because I'd like to make a difference, because I'm upset about the way the country's going, and I'm upset that a lot of successful people are forced out and they don't feel like they can stay and build in the UK. I don't want to leave the UK. I want to raise my children here. They make money, I make money here, but lots of different things going on, rightly or wrongly, in my perception, is it's not given the best place to have a business. And then you go and you look at other countries and what they're doing to attract entrepreneurs, the tax, everything. And so I thought, could I have a go at, being a voice for politicians, and influence education in schools and influence, entrepreneurship, business. But I quickly found that world, when you're in it, there's so many things you can't do. So I've not quite got to a decision yet, but I'm kind of thinking what I'm doing now is going to have more of an impact than if I go and then have the, MP status and what I can and can't do, because there's a lot to it. You,
in theory, would have a really good opportunity to make a difference there, which is what's needed. But you've been put off by this experience, and also it got worse, didn't it? Am I right in saying there were death threats? Or that's shocking.
Yeah, so I got told the only way to win the seat, if you're going to be a politician, is say what the people want to hear, which I get, but take take out your competitor. So I really, really hate this thing that politicians do. And I don't know if it's because, people have called me naive, but I don't like when they're sat in Parliament and they're slagging each other off for me. And, you see them come up to it, and then, we've seen quite a few of the prominent politicians that I want my children to look up to, and they're starting by firing at the other side. We need to work together. We need to be united. So I was very put off it as well, because the campaign teams are going, you're going to have to go, and point fingers. I'm like, but I don't want to be a politician that points fingers. And they're going, well, you will never win. I'm like, I want to be a politician that gets on and does a job and works with everybody. Different parties have different opinions, and we absolutely need that. And then I got the death threats, and I got terrible trolling with people telling me to stand down. I'm only a woman woman, I'm stupid, there is no way I can do this, I'm naive, and just such a massive backlash that I thought, you know, maybe this is not my time. I mean, I might go into politics in years to come, but I was flabbergasted by the whole thing. And then it opened up a world. Is this why something's wrong with the system in our country? Is this why we're not getting it right? Because we've got campaign teams, politicians being told to fire at each other. Why are we not trying to fix where the UK is to make us better? And that's what I would love to see at some point in the future.
Well, ditto, and surely anyone watching, listening, I mean, that for me is kind of heartbreaking, because you're the sort of person, I imagine, when stuff is put in front of you, where obstacles, if you like, where, you know, ultimately you're not going to turn around and go the other way, you're going to find a way around them. But that's impacting you personally. You've got your son to think about. You got, you know, the fact that you don't actually need to do it. You chose to do it, and so I guess there's an element there where, you know, you've chosen to reverse out of that. But that's really sad. And it also, to be fair, we you know, how many prime ministers have we had in the last few years? Far too many, right? Politics
6
seems broken.
in the last 5 years.
Yeah, that's right. My point being, it's not working, and so maybe the way that everyone is used to it working isn't actually the way forward. And you were showing that. You know, I think it's pretty archaic having people it's almost like the school debate. That's what I remember. And I remember even then thinking, this is all about ego. This is all about. This is actually all about the individual. Rather than what sits behind it. You can't have that in government. Anyway, that's me entering a whole nother conversation. A younger version of yourself will be so proud of you. And there's that role model piece again, people aspiring to want to be you. So there's so much you've learned, there's so much you've come through, but what's that one piece of advice that you would give a younger version of you?
The one piece of advice would be that believe you can do anything, because I believe anyone in the world can do anything they want. You need the education and knowledge. That's what's only missing. A lot of people think they can't do it because, you know, it's them, it's not them. Anyone can do anything with the right education and knowledge, and just taking one step at a time. And that would be my advice to my younger self and anyone. Figure out what you want to do, get the right education and knowledge on it, and then just take one step. You don't need to see the hell staircase, you don't need to do everything. It's just one baby step at a time, and you'll be so far ahead.
I love that. And I'm going to finish with something quite sort of similar almost. If you could, say you were the education minister, or better, the prime minister, and you've got autonomy, and you can bring in key learnings early to the education curriculum that are missing, specifically around what we talked about, that sort of financial education, when we're still learning Bunsen burners and algebra that perhaps aren't that relevant, what would you change?
I would want to start from children 5 years old to understand maths, because that's a basic. And then I would start introducing stuff like, what's an asset? What's a liability? What are interest rates? What does compound interest mean? How does the Bank of England work? How does a central bank work? I would love to see children from age 5 every single year learning all this critical stuff that they need, so that they can go and have a life that's successful. And we get them financially successful. We bring, hopefully, a lot of the mental health issues down, which then impacts the NHS. It's everything. Everything's money. And if people feel more at ease, they're more at peace because they've got, you know, a better financial standing, we're going to get better from everybody, aren't we?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's that downstream, like you said, if 70% of mental health is caused, if you like, by lack of financial stability, then head it off early, give people an education. You're so interesting to talk to, and you're a proper inspiration, Abi.
Thank you.
Thank you for making time to talk to me today. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.